Folks, it's me, Denny Carter from Rotoworld and NBC Sports coming at you for the Week 13 Fantasy Football Q&A on the NFL and NBC YouTube channel. Thanks for joining me as always. Kind of went back and forth on whether I would do the stream this week because of Thanksgiving, things of that nature. The folks who picketed outside of my house for 72 straight hours, they swayed me. They changed, my original decision to, relax on a Friday after Thanksgiving, things of that nature. And so good work. Diligence pays off. Believing in something pays off. And if that something happens to me to be a guy answering your fantasy football lineup questions, so be it. Everyone needs something to believe in, is what I always say. Before we get into the show, the live stream, I'm going to let you get your questions in. Not expecting this to be quite as hectic as it usually is. I'm going to go through good offensive environments entering the weekend. The weekend. What's the weekend? Isn't that from Downton Abbey? That's a pretty funny line. You're like, oh, right. People didn't used to have a weekend. They had to really fight for that sort of thing. Anyway, so we're going to go through good offensive environments, game environments. We're going to talk about slot receiver matchups, and we're going to talk about running back matchups based on the metrics. I'd also encourage you to check out the Rotoworld football show with me, Kyle Dvorak, and Pat D. Doherty, the ninth. We previewed every game, both the Friday game, the traditional Black Friday game, as it were, between the Eagles and Bears, and then the games on Sunday. So check that out on the Rotoworld football show, wherever podcasts are sold. But I wanted to congratulate everybody for getting there. And what do you mean by getting there? Here's what I mean. We've gotten to the part of the year where it's okay to play Christmas music. Now, you may say, I've been playing Christmas music since October 31st or something equally absurd. And I'd say, no, bad. Shame. There should be a law against such things. And it's not because I'm a Christmas hater or holiday season hater at all. Okay, I promise. I mean, during the holiday season, I have this whole setup just decked out in the most obnoxious Christmas stuff you could ever imagine, right? So that's not the reason. The reason is Christmas creep is out of control, right? And so if you're listening to Christmas music for 60 days or 90 days or something like that, you're sick of it by actual Christmas, by the actual day that you've been waiting for so long. And I'm trying to save you from yourself. Keep the Christmas music to Christmas season. I think you'll like it more. I wanted to share my Christmas playlist, sort of. I'll share it online. I'll share it on Blue Sky. Folks want to check that out. But so some of the highlights on my list that have gotten panned by others, but they just don't know the difference between good and bad things. I just want to share with you real quick. So Christmas Time by the Smashing Pumpkins is a good one for your Christmas playlist. Father Christmas by the Kinks is an excellent one. Merry Christmas by the Ramones, I like a lot. Thank God It's Christmas by Queen has quickly, for me, shot up the ranks of Christmas songs. Really good. And I'm not going to spend too much time here because I know you're like, just get the football. For the love of God, answer my questions. But Lou Rawls, okay, the GOAT, obviously, has some amazing Christmas stuff. Like, he basically just takes Christmas classics and makes them better. Santa Claus is coming to town. Merry Christmas, baby. Good Time Christmas. Good Time Christmas is good. That's what I'd say. Those are Lou Rawls songs. Along with, he also does another Christmas album that includes Hark the Herald Angels Sing, the Christmas song. James Brown has Merry Christmas, Baby. You got to get James Brown on your Christmas playlist, folks, okay? So that'll do it. Maybe I'll just mention one more. A Little Drummer Boy by Bob Seger. That's a good one. Must Be Santa by Bob Dylan. Not my favorite, but some folks like it. All right. Let's get to your questions after we talk about good, not bad, offensive environments for week. What are we in? Week 25, week 13. Today I'm drinking tea for the live stream because I didn't have time to make another pot of coffee, another half pot of coffee. So instead I'm drinking the worst alternative to coffee, which is tea. It's so bad, yet I'm drinking it. Curious is what I'd say. All right, let's get into these good offensive environments. I mean, not a lot. We had some scoring on Thanksgiving, which was nice. Even the Bengals managed to score some points, which is nice. Anyway, Giants Patriots 46.5 point total. That's the highest of Sunday. Not high again. Not high. The Patriots have a nice hefty implied total of 27. So you're going to want to start your Patriots. You're starting Travion Henderson everywhere. You can start your secondary, tertiary Patriots, your Kayshon Bouttys, your who else? I guess Hunter Henry, guys of that nature. And then for the Giants, Wandell, Theo Johnson, Tracy, maybe Isaiah Hodgins, if you're really down bad at receiver. He's the wide receiver too right now. All right. Bills, this is surprising. Bills Steelers, second highest total, 45.5 points. I'm a little skeptical on this one. It profiles as a game that with not much play volume. So that makes me a little nervous. And the Bills can be had on the ground. So I'm thinking Arthur Smith is just going to establish it, really bleed the clock, maybe make this one tough to get there for fantasy. But Vegas has it as a 45.5 point total. 44.5 point total for Rams, Panthers. I mean, the only way this is going to go is the Rams get up big and the Panthers have to ditch their running game again like they did last week and take to the air. And even that doesn't guarantee much because Bryce Young is not good. I wrote up Kyron Williams. I just wanted to mention, I know Kyron Williams was a disappointment last week and, hasn't been much fun this year. Partly because of Blake Corum's involvement in the LA backfield. But I wrote up Kyron Williams in my matchup column, which you can find on rotoworld.com right now, because the Panthers over the past month have really begun to look an awful lot like an extreme run funnel defense. Teams leaning hard into the run against them. They will also be down a couple key defensive players against the Rams. So I think Kyron Williams should stay in lineups this week. And then the last one I want to mention, Colts, Texans, 44.5 point total. It's whatever. I mean, Texans are like the pass heaviest team in the NFL over the past month. And they were inching up there with CJ Stroud before his head injury, right? So he should be back this week against the Colts. The Colts secondary is much improved with Sauce Gardner, getting back some guys who had been on injured reserve. So just be careful with that a little bit. But yeah, not much in the way of good offensive environments right now for week 10. I keep wanting to say week 13. Not even close, Denny, he said. All right, we'll get to slot receiver matchups in just a moment. Let's start. Lanny Horn. Lanny Horn is in the chat as per usual. Thanks for the stellar advice all season, Doc. Play a doctor on the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. I hope look, I really do try to help you guys. I answer questions, just so you know, I answer questions with this thought process. What would I do in this circumstance if it were my fantasy team? And I try to answer honestly about that. And sometimes it sounds a little weird, and maybe I play fantasy football a little differently than you, and that, that's fine. Teach your son. You want to know who plays fantasy football completely differently from me is Rotopat. And Rotopat's pretty dang good at fantasy football. So, Thank you. Thank you for the nice words, Laney. Anyway, flex full PPR. Ibuka, QJ, Devin Neal, Vidal, or Hampton. Well, I don't think Vidal is in the discussion if Hampton is back. I would just start Hampton. You can only play one of these guys. So I would play Ibuka if Baker Mayfield plays. If not, then shift to Hampton. All right. Francisco says hello, Doc. Hello to you. So need two for full PPR. Wandale Robinson, Stephen Diggs, Michael Wilson. Need two. So I mentioned this on Thursday's show with Kyle and Pat, and I really don't. I know this sounds like a cop out, like come on, fantasy guy, like answer the question. But like if you don't have like some idea of what the Patriots are going to do on offense on a given week, then you don't know Stefan Diggs's usage, and it varies wildly from week to week at this point. You know, it goes from oh no, I wasn't connected. All right, now I should sound better now. Sorry about that. Anyway, Stefan Diggs' usage goes from like a 90% route rate to like a 45% route rate. And that makes a huge difference. Even if he's still targeted at a high rate per route, you know, you take away all those route running opportunities, and what are you left with? You know, you're hoping for a touchdown. I know that MHJ is supposed to be back this week. I wrote about the Cardinals offense in my matchup column, and long story short, still read it, I would say. But long story short, I think that Michael Wilson is still in play. I would go with Wandale Robinson and Michael Wilson there. I know it's tough, but you know, got to do what you got to do. Alex, Dr. D, the great one. Okay, that's a new one, but I like it. Keep it going. Thank you for working today. Oh yeah. I mean, is it working? Is it working if I'm just talking on a live stream about my favorite Christmas songs and threatening people, making people feel badly about listening to Christmas songs before Thanksgiving? Does that really work? Many are asking. Please pick two. Diggs, Michael Wilson, Gadsden, and Pittman. I do like Pittman a lot here in this matchup. I'd go Pittman and Wilson. I was telling everybody to play Wilson last week, and I feel like you need to keep chasing those points. It does matter if Teddy Bridgewater starts for me. Because Bridgewater potentially just tanks the whole environment for the Bucs Cardinals game. You know, I mean, Todd Bowles said as early as like Tuesday that, you know, we're going to have to change our offense pretty dramatically to fit Teddy Bridgewater. That's a nice way of saying like this guy is so terribly, disastrously limited that I don't really know how we're going to run our normal offense. And boy, did my guy Teddy not look good in the second half against the Rams on Sunday Night Football on NBC. I guess I've seen worse quarterback play at some point in my life. I can't think of it, but I'm sure I have. So that scares me a little bit about the environment of the Cardinals game. But Michael Wilson, I'd go with him. I'd go with Pittman. Gadsden is a nice play, by the way. But I'd go with those two. Dr. Carter, absolutely. Half PPR. Which two running backs should I start? Woody Marks against the Colts. Judkins against the Niners. DeAndre Swift. You get the Eagles revenge game. Oh, I forgot. Revenge. We love our revenge. Revenge is analytics, by the way. Okay. You go into the little spreadsheet and you type in revenge and you hit enter and it spits out a new projection because of the anger that a player feels. Remember angry Tom Brady? Remember that fantasy thing? Well, angry Tom Brady, you got to play him this week. Angry Mahomes, you got to play him. That kind of works. They do get mad. By the way, can my guy Mahomes like get a nap? Is it possible for this guy, you know, a little sleep, just a little? He's not looking great. Not a judgment, not like a looks judgment or anything, not shaming. I see him and, he looks like a very tired dad. Same. And I know that look, Patrick, if you're listening, and you usually are. I just feel like he should get a nap. I feel like the Chiefs should make sure that the cornerstone player of their franchise is getting proper sleep, because it doesn't appear that he is. I'm worried. Anyway, let's get back to your question. I would go with Marks. He had a 16-6 rushing attempt lead on Nick Chubb last week, ran more routes. I think that Marks has a couple outs here. So if the Texans have game script on their side, if the Texans defense wrecks Daniel Jones, who's playing with a broken leg. I should say, listen, if you're in a super flex league, okay, and you're always looking for the next quarterback who could get a start, right? I get that, and I do the same. You got it right now. You keep listening to the stream, but right now, go to another tab or your mobile device or whatever, and pick up Riley Leonard, because Daniel Jones is playing with a broken leg. I don't know how long that's going to last. Anthony Richardson remains on injured reserve. They definitely don't want to play Anthony Richardson. And Riley Leonard, while bad, could be really fun for fantasy by himself. Okay. He's Tebow-esque. Okay. So you're going to get, he could possibly be a guy who pushes for 100 rushing yards and a touchdown on the ground. So he's like Konami code royalty at that point. If he gets any starts here. Now he destroys all the pass catchers. All the pass catchers for the Colts become basically unplayable. It just becomes Jonathan Taylor and Riley Leonard. But Leonard should be picked up in Superflex this week in case. So anyway, if the Texans destroy the Colts, if the defense destroys Daniel Jones and company, then they have script on their side. They establish it a little bit. Woody Marks benefits. If the Colts get up on the Texans, then Woody Marks is out there running routes and possibly seeing targets. So he has some outs. So I like Woody Marks. Kyle Monangai kind of sort of took over the Chicago backfield after DeAndre Swift fumbled last week. Now, I don't know if that's going to hold up. Not usually, but often a team will come back the next week and be like, well, our veteran learned his lesson. He's back. And so that this could all be for naught, but Monangai has looked good. He's been efficient. The team seems to like him. I don't love Swift against the Eagles. And I think the Niners-Browns is just going to be a run-heavy slugfest. So I'd go with Judkins and Marks. I know that was the longest answer of all time. I'm sorry. Nate Deasy, happy Thanksgiving, Doc. Same to you. Jefferson or Abuka if Baker doesn't play. Jefferson, yes. Is Bauer still a top 2 tight end? It's immaterial. Like, probably not, because of the environment and the situation and the offensive line for Vegas. But, he's a top 12 tight end, and that's what matters. So you're playing him. Also, sweet potato pie is the best Thanksgiving pie. Feels wrong. I'm not a big pie guy. I do like apple pie with ice cream to cover up the taste of the apple pie. I don't know about sweet potato pie. Anyway, Timothy in the chat, which defense should he play? Falcons at Jets, Saints at Dolphins, Steelers against the Bills. Yeah, and Timothy mentions that both Bills starting tackles are out against the Steelers pass rush. Good luck to Josh Allen and the Cardinals are the Bucks. Well, okay. I'd much rather play like the Dolphins against the Saints. Are they available? No, I guess you would have put them in there. I guess I go with the Falcons. No. Steelers. Go with the Steelers. All right. Nate Ford, happy Friday. Same to you. Would you start May or Herbert? May. Stop. May. My opponent is starting Quentin Johnston, Keenan Allen if it makes difference. Don't overthink it. Too cute. Too cute. You get too cute, you get the boot. You knew that. You knew that, Nate Ford. I've seen you in the chat many times. You knew the rule of the chat, which is you get too cute, you get the boot. And you still did it. You still did it. So get out. I'm kidding. You should stay. But get out. That's too cute. Oh, my opponent has Quentin Johnston. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not making fun of Nate Ford. I've done that. I've done it. I've been there. I've done that. You just overthink it, right? You overthink it. Basically, okay. In that situation, and I have committed this sin, this fantasy football sin. In that situation, what you're doing is this. You're saying, how do I not lose this week? I got to figure out a way not to lose. When the mindset should be, I have to find a way to win. I want to win. I want Drake May's 29 fantasy points this week. I don't care what Justin Herbert does behind a disastrous offensive line without Joe Alt. Of course, the entire Chargers franchise is based on whether Joe Alt can stand up or not. And right now he cannot on his own. So it's over completely for the Chargers. So yeah, anyway, you're going with old Drake up. Nate Ford again. Start 1 in half PPR between Devin Neal, Marks, Gainwell, and Mooney. Mooney got away with it. You should feel bad if you got away with it last week with Mooney. 3 targets, only like 25% of the air yards. Get out. Never good. Gainwell's a good play. I'd go with Marks. Devin Neal, I hate to say this, and I wish it were not true, but it is. Taysom Hill blows up the whole Devin Neal situation. I cannot believe that the Taysom Hill scam survived outside of the Sean Payton industrial complex. I thought that was just a fun game that Sean Payton and his people like to play. But it's not. It's not. A whole new coaching staff in New Orleans is in on the Taysom Hill scam. And his offensive package is bigger than ever. 10 carries last week for 17 yards, but whatever. 10 carries. A lot of them inside the 10-yard line, So like, okay, like Devin Neal sees like 15 carries between the 20s. So what? Unless he breaks one for a long touchdown. But like, so what? That is a so what workload for Devin Neal. Unless I'm missing something, Devin Neal runs a bunch of routes, sees 8 targets, something like that. He can get there, okay, for PPR. I know this is half PPR, but still. Taysom Hill needs to be started in 12-team leagues this week. I mean, here's what your streaming tight end is not getting. Your streaming tight end is not getting goal line carries. He's not seeing 10 to 12 touches. So, Taysom Hill's in play. Brad Beatson, my guy. Dr. Denny, salute to you. Just how low is Amon-Ra St. Brown's low ankle sprain? I'm glad you asked, Brad. I'm glad you asked. Yeah, so St. Brown injured his ankle, tanked my DFS lineups for Thanksgiving. I hope he's better. It hurt a lot. I want to mention something too before I get to the low ankle sprain. All right, I talked some crap about Jameson Williams yesterday online. Right after I post it, Amon-Ra St. Brown goes down with an ankle. Jameson Williams becomes the de facto wide receiver 1 because Khalil Raymond wasn't available for the Lions, and goes off, has a career day. Still bad. Still not commanding targets at a high rate when Amon-Ra St. Brown's on the field. And I was gonna say, and I want folks to know I have 100% exposure to Jameson Williams in redraft leagues this year. Like, like I sounded like a hater, but I basically bet on him like to win every league. He cost me everything, of course, naturally, which is maybe why I'm bitter. Okay, yeah, I'm an analytics guy, I'm a spreadsheets guy, but I'm also an emotional creature. I also feel things. I have feelings, and JMO has hurt my feelings this year, and I think you can see that online. Still bad though, obviously. And so and Dan Campbell, I fear for our analytics king. I think Dan Campbell is so in his head about making JMO a thing that he's going to cost the team and maybe cost himself. Stop trying to make him a thing. He's not a thing. He's just a guy. So anyway, he dropped that fourth down play anyway. So vindicated. I said nothing wrong. Totally exonerated on my part. Oh yeah, but let me just talk about the low ankle sprain. It's so low. It's so low that they're actually consulting with doctors overseas to see if there's any record in human history of a lower ankle sprain. They don't think there is, but they're just confirming. They're going to confirm by Saturday morning to see if it is the lowest high ankle sprain in history. If a team says low ankle sprain, what they mean is it's bad. But you knew that. All right. Dr. Denny. Dr. Denny McDoodle Bergenstein V. Who shall you play in half PPR? BTJ, Metcalf, or the Toy Story Kid. Bro, I'm struggling here with the names. The Toy Story Kid. I don't know who that is. I'm really sorry. What was the Toy Story Kid's name? Sid? Okay. Yeah, Brian Thomas. I would play Brian Thomas. Timothy, back in the chat. If Darren Waller comes off IR, would you play him over Gadsden? No. You're playing Gadsden. Dolphins have been mega giga ultra run heavy lately. 43% neutral pass rate over the past 3 games. One of the lowest in the league. It's Jalen Waddle or bust. So Waller is not really interesting. Oh, the person says Toy Story Kid equals Woody. Oh, Woody. I see. Man, you got me there. So would I play BTJ Metcalf or Woody Marks? I play Woody Marks. All right. Francisco Lamar Jackson looking like a backup. I mean, he's severely injured, probably playing through. I mean, I'm sure. Look, what we're gonna discover in the next 4 to 6 weeks is that he's playing through a major injury. I mean, it's pretty clear. Rest of season, Lamar, Burrow, or Stafford. I have all three and want to roll with Burrow. By the way, Joe Burrow asked Melissa Stark in the post-game interview yesterday when the Bengals were eating their post-game meal on the field, which always kind of grosses me out. Joe Burrow asked, "What's this?" And he picked up a crab, a Maryland crab. What's this? What's this? He didn't know what that was. You know, as a Marylander, I'm deeply offended. That's all. And also, to be clear, let me be clear as the official spokesperson for Maryland. No one's eating crabs on Thanksgiving in Maryland. I'm telling you. Okay. Like, I know. It's just like in Seattle, where every time there's a Seahawks game, they show the fishmongers, which is one of my favorite words. Throwing big old fish back and forth in a market, right? I'm pretty sure that like everybody in Seattle is not eating gigantic fish every day. And it's the same thing in Maryland. Okay. It's an offensive stereotype. So cut it out. Yeah, I think going Burrow might be all right. All right. Vidal's on waivers. Is Omari and Hampton playing? That's a good question. You should keep it locked to rotoworld.com for the latest on that. I don't see any updates. Baker Mayfield is trending toward playing against Arizona per Rotoworld. Jackson Dart will play against the Patriots per Kafka. McLaurin is expected to play against the Broncos. Who cares? And then Dalton Kincaid is questionable against the Steelers. That's pretty significant, actually. You should pay attention to that one. J.C. Horn, the cornerback for the Panthers who terrorized Brock Purdy last week, suffered a concussion. He's out for week 13 against the Rams. I mean, the Rams could very easily score 40 plus points here. So play your Rams is what I'd say. I think you can even get cute with Blake Corum. There's a level of cute that I'll allow. You know that. You say, "Oh, don't get cute. I'm not giving myself the boot." Okay, but you can get a little cute. And you know what was cute and what was a decent play last night? Keaton Mitchell for the Ravens. Deep league, he was a cute little play. It worked mostly. Better than Derrick Henry? I don't know. Some are saying. Some have said that. So is Omari Hampton? I don't know. But if Hampton plays, you can't play Vidal. But you might want to stash him. You want to stash Gore Vidal. Michael Wilson against Tampa or Brian Thomas against Tennessee. I mean, talk about questions that you would not have even been able to process in August. I'm going with Brian Thomas if he plays, but just barely. Dunze, Mike Wilson, or Pittman. You pick two. Dunze's seeing crazy air yards. If he ever got a decent downfield target from Caleb Williams, he'd be cooking. I'd go with Dunze and Mike Wilson. And I know the Marvin Harrison Jr. stuff looms somewhat large, but not super large. I mean, the Cardinals OC said Michael Wilson has done more than enough to earn more playing time, earn more targets, more opportunities. I really don't think this is a situation where MHJ returns and Michael Wilson has to ride the pine the rest of the season. Never used that phrase in my life. I have no idea where it came from. Anyway, this person says, I've literally never not kept it locked to Rotoworld. How could you? How could you not? You lock it in. You put it up on one of your tabs, one of your 73 tabs full of news articles that you're never going to read, but you feel bad about Xing them out because it's I don't ever read anything anymore. I just consume content. Who am I? What have I done to myself? But you keep those tabs up just in case you want to read a full article one day, but you never will. Anyway, among those tabs should be Rotoworld. You should keep it locked. This is not a joke. This is not a bit, okay? When I was in my early 20s, so this is in the early 2000s, and the internet was not what it was, not what it is today. In some better ways and some worse ways, but I used to have Rotoworld up on my work computer. I worked at a local newspaper at the time called the Gazette, and I would refresh that tab during the football season, roughly 50 times, maybe upwards of 75 times a day. I kept it locked to Rotoworld, let me tell you, because I wanted to see updated columns. There was no podcast at the time. It wasn't the situation that is today where every single person has a football podcast. There was no podcast, but there was lots of written content, and there was news blurbs, and the news blurbs were so valuable, and still are. But because of the proliferation of news, it's a little different today. Anyway, I just sit there, refresh. So I'm with you. Let's see. Up on the housetop is the best Christmas song ever, and it's not close. I'll check it out. Hola, Denny, salute. Juwan Johnson or Theo Johnson. I'd go with Theo. Are you serious about Taysom Hill being rostered in 12-team leagues? He sold 10 carries last week. Like, he's running routes. He's up. Yeah, I am. I know it doesn't sound good and doesn't look good. I mean, he's quite bad. I hate to say it, but it is what it is. And then finally, Pierce or Booty. Alec Pierce has a rough one this week because Alec Pierce relies on more intermediate and downfield looks from Daniel Jones, who I don't think Daniel Jones is going to be in position to really throw those very much against a ferocious Texans front seven. Forget about front seven. They're going to be able to pressure Daniel Jones with 4, which is what they did to Josh Allen last week. And when you're able to get there with 4 every single time, like we saw with Houston against Buffalo, then you're dropping 7 in coverage, and it's like very, very tight window throws are required. And I'm thinking that Daniel Jones not going to do well in that situation. So Pierce is a really rough play. So I'd lean Kayshon Boutte. Step Into Christmas by Elton John has been stuck in my head since last year. That's a good one. I like that one. I have that one on my playlist. Stuntman Chuck. I'm worried it may be too cute. What are you worried about that may be too cute, Stuntman Chuck? I didn't see a question from you, bud. I'm sorry. I just saw the letter I. All right. Let's see. We'll go to this, and then we're going to talk about slot receiver matchups. Our league offers a prize for the weekly team's highest score. It keeps bad rosters trying. That's a great idea, actually. Floor play would be Swift. Go for ceiling with Bucky or Marvin Jr. I'm Ron Burgundy. I would actually go with Bucky Irving there. He'll be back this week. Do you have Kyron over Travion? No, you can't do that because Travion Henderson is playing the Giants, and the Giants are getting crushed by running backs. All right, we're going to shift. We're going to talk about slot receivers in a moment. Here, we're going to talk about running back matchups here. We're going to narrow it down week 6 to 12 so we get what I hope is a more accurate view of bad rush defenses as measured by yards before contact per rushing attempt. Now, the aforementioned Giants are at the top of this category. They're allowing 2.97 yards before contact per attempt. That is by far the highest rate in the league. An explosive runner like Travion Henderson feasts on that sort of environment and that sort of matchup. Travion Henderson was real close to a big week last week against the Bengals, who are similarly bad run defense as the Giants. You got to keep playing them. The Commanders, since week 6, second worst in yards before contact per attempt given up. RJ Harvey, very live as a flex. Bears are third, so Saquon, things of that nature. Chargers have given up the 4th highest rate of yards before contact per rush. The Chargers are playing, I know this, the Raiders. So maybe Ashton Genty won't be a total bust this week. We'll see. Bucks are giving up the 5th highest rate of rush yards before contact. So that is good for the Cardinals. Good for the Cardinals non-running back. I don't even know. I guess it'd be Bam Knight. Maybe. I don't know. That doesn't really matter to me. There, and then the Panthers are next in this category, which makes it a really good environment for both Kyron Williams and Blake Corum, I believe. The Patriots quietly 7th in rush yards before contact per attempt since week 6. So, not bad, not a bad spot. Some would say for my guy Tyro and Tracy. Let's go to the bottom of this situation. Since week 6, the Broncos are allowing the league's lowest rate of rush yards before contact. Real bad spot for everybody in the Washington offense. I actually don't even know like who you'd want to play here in a 12-team format. You should try not to play anybody. is my take on the Commanders. I guess Jeremy McNichols, who saw a team high 15 carries last time they played and led the backfield in routes, I guess he would be the option there, but really awful matchup. Jags allowed the second lowest rate of rush yards before contact. Tajay Spears is somewhat viable in deeper formats. Tony Pollard is not. And this is why I actually think that the Titans' drop back volume will be inflated this week. To put it mildly, Vikings, third best in allowing rush yards before contact. Ken Walker is flex viable. You're kind of relying on him catching 4 or 5 passes. He did catch 4 last week. You really should not play Charbonnet. Like, just find another way. And then finally, the Raiders. The Raiders are 4th best in rush yards before contact given up per attempt since week 6. So not a great matchup, honestly. The Raiders have an abysmal secondary, as you know, probably. Their rush defense has been pretty good, surprisingly. So just be careful with how you use your Chargers running backs. All right, let's get back to your questions. We have about 15 minutes left. You need points, Eddie. Eddie says, I need points. I do too. I need points, Obi-Wan Denny. That's my name. Jacoby or Dart. I would go Jacoby. The thing with Dart is that almost 60% of his fantasy production before the concussion was on the ground, both rushing yards and touchdowns. And I think the whole idea behind a post-stable Giants offense is that they're not going to do that stuff much anymore. I mean, after the Cam Scatterbo injury, Jackson Dart was functioning as the team's primary goal line back, like Jalen Hurts, really, for the Eagles. And that's incredibly valuable for fantasy, right? It can paper over an otherwise sort of ordinary or even kind of a bad outing for a quarterback. So if you take that away, and again, I don't know for sure that they will. I haven't seen anybody, and correct me if I'm wrong, I keep pretty close tabs on this, but I have not seen anybody from the Giants, beat writers or anything, come out and say the whole Jackson Dart rushing thing is over. But if it's scaled back, it's a problem for fantasy purposes. So I would go Jacoby Jacoby Brissett. Oh my Josh says, does Devontae Smith have a big game today? That's a good question. It doesn't. No, I mean, the Eagles don't really match up very well. The Eagles passing game doesn't match up well against the Bears, and the Bears are a run funnel defense. But 12-team league, you probably should play Devontae Smith. All right, people answering the questions in the chat. I love that. Someone says, "Hey Doc, did you gain weight?" No. But thanks for asking. Swift or Bam Knight. Oh, but this person included 2 laughing emojis, so it's okay. I'm not mad. Stop saying I'm mad. Swift or Bam Knight? I'd go with Swift. There you go. All right. Tight end Gaston or Juwan Johnson. I'm in quarterback. Sorry if you hear my dog. He's very mad. Very mad about this. It's Gadsden. He's mad because you're getting too cute. And if you get too cute, you get the boot. And my dog knows Henry says, I need one running back and one flex in full PPR. Warren, Gainwell, Walker, Jefferson. Yeah, I mean, it's got to be Warren. It's got to be Warren, and then I'd go with Justin Jefferson. I do think Max Brosmer is going to be an upgrade over JJ McCarthy. I mean, in part because you can't be worse than JJ McCarthy, and it's not a joke. It's not a bit. Like, I'm not trying to make you laugh. Like, it actually is statistically not possible to be worse than him. So I think Brosmer will be an upgrade. And I think the Vikings could pass more because of that. They won't be hiding their quarterback quite as much here. Hope that helps. Excuse me while I continue to burp. I know you're the GOAT when it comes to kickers. Oh, thank you. Some are saying that. Who would you start between Prater, McLaughlin, Lutz, Patterson, or Gonzalez? Well, you're looking for a kicker who's going to have game script on his side. And that would describe, it probably doesn't describe Prater. I mean, it might, but I'm not certain. McLaughlin, kind of maybe, if Baker Mayfield plays through the game. It definitely describes Will Lutz, and it definitely describes Patterson for the Dolphins. Now, the Broncos don't really kick a lot of field goals, but I would go with Lutz. Just because they should be in position to kick field goals throughout the game because the game script will be on their side. Oh, here's another kicker question. I need your help. Jason Myers against the Vikings, or Andy, I've never said his name out loud, Andy Borregales against the Giants, or Cam Little against Tennessee. Those are all good options. I would go with my guy Andy from the Patriots against the Giants. I think Patriots going to score a lot of points. Giants allow a really high rate of opposing offensive possessions to end in scores. If that makes sense. So I'd lean the Patriots kicker there. Darth Carter, my good brother. My evil brother says, hey, Denny, son. Would you flex Chamire DK or duck-footed Harold Fannin in half PPR? I'm mostly fading the Browns-Niners game because it's going to be really nasty weather. I'm breaking ties against that game. So I mean, DK is clearly a focal point of the Titans right now. Like, they're trying to see what they have in their young players, and he is among them. He is an electric guy with the ball in his hands, both as a kick returner and as a receiver. Lots of first read targets lately. I wrote about it in my matchup column in more detail, which you can find on Rotoworld. But yeah, I'd go with DK. And then Addison or Taysom Hill. I was kind of close. I'd go with Addison. All right, let's do one more, and then we'll go to Texans red hot defense against limpy Daniel Jones, or the Chargers against the Raiders. I'm starting the Texans pretty easily there. All right, let's get to slot receiver matchups to see what we see, which is what we say in the business here. We're going to look at season long adjusted yards per attempt on slot targets. Okay, given up by defenses. Okay, this just basically says which teams are against which teams our offense is being really efficient via the slot, right? And that usually matches up to volume of passes to slot receivers. So Bengals are giving up a league high rate of adjusted yards per attempt to the slot. That's why tight ends have gone off this year. It's why Isaiah Likely had a usable game against Cincinnati on Thanksgiving night on NBC. Commanders, second highest rate of adjusted yards per attempt to the slot. Now, this is a little bit messier because the Broncos don't have like one slot guy, right? So Troy Franklin runs 49% of his routes from the slot. He leads the receivers in that category. So I guess he would be the main beneficiary, but Pat Bryant, who's gotten a little more playing time recently, is up to near 60% slot rate. And Evan Ingram is at 45%, almost 45% slot rate. So it could benefit a lot of guys. Cortland Sutton, only 18% slot rate. So that's, he wouldn't be in that category. Troy Franklin is a nice play, is what I'm saying. The Niners are giving up the third highest adjusted yards per attempt to the slot. That's Fannin. It's a little bit of Judy, but again, that's going to be a nasty game. Not a ton of fantasy appeal. I think. Let me just check the total on that Browns Niners game real quick. That's a total of 36.5 points. Right now is the projection 36.5. Quite low, quite ugly, some would say. All right, let's get back to this. Bears, fourth highest adjusted yards per attempt to the slot. That's Goddard. It's AJ Brown. Cowboys, they already played. Lions, they already played. Steelers, seventh highest adjusted yards per attempt. So Khalil Shakir, and this is why I mentioned Dalton Kincaid earlier. Kincaid runs a lot from the slot, so he would be very interesting. Shakir and Kincaid become interesting because of that. Let's go to the bottom here and talk about bad slot matchups. As per usual, the Jaguars are a nightmare matchup for slot receivers. I know Jameer, what's his name? Jameer DK runs quite a few routes from the slot, but nevertheless, we persist. Anyway, the Jags are giving up the lowest adjusted yards per attempt to the slot. Eagles, second lowest. That's not great news for DJ Moore or Luther Burden. Of course, Moore got away with it last week. Rams, third lowest adjusted yards per attempt to the slot. Jalen Coker was like somewhat involved in garbage-ish time last week against San Francisco, but I don't think he's even a deep league play this week. Packers are fourth here. Chiefs fifth. They already played. And then Cardinals give up sixth lowest adjusted yards per attempt to the slot. So like Chris Godwin, Kate Otten, tough spot for them. All right, let's answer a few more, and I got to go. About 4 minutes. Superflex help. Okay, Trevor Lawrence never been good. It's disgusting that you guys talk like me now. My wife would be horrified. Never been good. Trevor Lawrence. He was good as a freshman at Clemson. Not since though. Sanders, no, not in that environment. Judkins, Pearsall, Keenan, pick 2. Okay. Well, look, Trevor Lawrence might not be good, but he should be in your lineup here. And then Pearsall is not fantasy viable in any environment. And then Keenan's not running a lot of routes, so it's Judkins and it's Lawrence. Index of Suspicion says, quote, too cute and Patoots get the boot. That's a good one. I like that variation on a theme. Texas window cleaning and waterproofing. It says, Doctor, help. Drop Bam or Jaden Higgins to pick up weird dumpster fire running back to play this. What? Wait. What's going on now? Well, Rico and CMC are on vacation? What do you mean on vacation? They're both playing this week. I don't get it. I'm sorry, man. Yeah, your questions are funny, and I don't understand them. All right. Good morning. You must be on the West Coast, brother. Appreciate what you do. Thanks. Full PPR, pick 1 wide receiver and 1 flex. Diggs, Romadunze, Parker Washington, RJ Harvey or Neal. Okay. Pick 1 wide receiver, 1 flex. I would go with Romadunze, and I would go I'd go with RJ Harvey. I like RJ Harvey's spot. I mean, again, not likely to see a huge workload here, but like barring weird game script, could see 15 touches. I like RJ Harvey's chances of getting there plus some against Washington's defense with 15 touches. And is Tyler Warren still a must start against Houston? Strange and Schultz are on waivers. I'd still go with Tyler Warren. He has a lot of first read targets for a tight end. You know, he's like a focal point of that passing attack. So go ahead with that. Devin Neal is a psyop. Could be. We don't know. Okay, if anyone tells you they know for sure that he's not a psyop, they're lying. I don't know either way. We're looking into it powerfully. Mooney was great last year with almost washed Cousins. Yeah, I know, but not so much this year. How could I forget the Taysom Hill scam? I withdrew my Devin Neal question. Oh, okay. All right, Stuntman Chuck, thank you. Oh no, Ben David says stop with the Taysom stuff. It's not a bit. Like, I'm sorry, like a tight end in fantasy football is almost guaranteed 10 to 12 touches this week, and I'm not going to talk about him. What? Like, if you were like I have seen the future and AJ Barner is going to see 10 touches this week, you'd play AJ Barner. You know, it's like not that crazy at all. Taysom Hill has broken brains in the fantasy community, including mine, maybe. Hey, Doc, Juwan Jennings, Pittman, or Dowdle. Happy holidays to you, Wendy Smith. I don't think it can be Jennings. Bad matchup. Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy has no chance. Brock Purdy's not healthy. He's not healthy. He's playing because he's being paid a lot of money, and that's it. Like, if the Niners wanted to do what's right, they would bench him for the rest of the year. And maybe even like get rid of him after this year and just go with Mac Jones. Mac Jones is better in that offense anyway. He's not healthy, not good, never been good. I'd go with Rico. Maybe the Panthers kind of learned their lesson last week with trying to take the ball out of Rico's hands. And I could see him bouncing back a little bit this week as far as usage goes. Person asks PPR Gadsden or Hill at tight end. I mean, I'd lean Gadsden. I think Gadsden is a really good play, actually. I wrote him up in the regression files. So like maybe okay, let me just answer this, and then I'm going to finish the podcast by talking about Taysom Hill. If Hampton plays this week, are you starting him over Dowdle or Walker? Am I starting him over Dowdle or Walker? I would start him over Walker. Yeah. All right. Let me just get to this. Okay. Look, I'm gonna look at RotoPat's rankings. Okay, which you can find on Rotoworld. He has Taysom as tight end 19. Okay. Now, Pat and I see things differently with Taysom Hill, and I get that. And this is not like say this is wrong, but I would play him over Zach Ertz. I would play him over Brenton Strange, over Colston Loveland, over Dalton Schultz. I'd play him over Juwan Johnson. That's about it. Yeah. I'd play him over Kyle Pitts. Yeah, but that's the cutoff. I'd play, over K. Dotton, over Ingram, Mason Taylor, AJ Barner, Hawkinson, obviously, Okonkwo, Parkinson, and Njoku. So I hope that gives you like some idea of how to handle Taysom Hill's growing offensive package in the Saints offense. All right, folks, that'll do it for me. I'm Denny Carter. You can find all of my work on rotoworld.com. Check out the Rotoworld Football Show. We have a great Week 13 preview with me, Kyle, and Pat. I will be with you next Friday for another Q&A. And until then, good luck to you and only you.